Omar, Tom Hitchcock here. How are you?
Yeah, good, Tom. How are you today?
I'm pretty good, actually. Now, I'm well aware that you're a busy man at the moment. Probably audits, services that need to be delivered, people to be kept happy, and what have you. So I'm very appreciative of your time this evening.
Oh, thanks for inviting me on. Appreciate it.
That's all right. That's all right. So, the onus on this particular style of conversation is I don't do any talking. It's all you. All right. Okay. So all the pressure is going to be put onto you here. I know enough about you. Okay. Why don't you introduce yourself as to who Omar is?
Yeah, sure. So in the capacity of knowing you, Tom, I'm the owner of a NDIS disability company, Alliance Care, and we provide quite medically specialised care to individuals with disabilities, amongst other things. And yeah, that's really who we are and what we do. Yeah, in a quick summary.
Okay. I find it interesting. So, when I speak to business owners, it's not entirely business owners on here that we speak with. Their first answer as to they are is always the business. And listen, I'll do the same thing. I've got it all behind me here, and I think a lot of that's to do with the business tends to be an extension of ourselves. Plus, it's such an investment of time and effort, and sometimes money, that it's all consuming. Would you agree with that sentiment?
I completely agree, Tom. I think you would hear it all the time. It's my baby. It's something you've built from the ground up. It's hard for it not to be an extension, right? When you put that much into it. Yeah, but very good observation. I mean, you would talk to more potentially business owners in this format, so that definitely makes sense. But I agree wholeheartedly that definitely makes sense.
Okay, and how young is your business?
Yeah, great question. So in terms of the NDIS specific side of things, we are probably around just over 2 years old. So fairly young in the grand capacity of things. Maybe if you look at the spectrum of NDI specifically, we're not that super young. But I think, objectively looking at businesses in general, yeah, we're a pretty early player in terms of, how long we've been around and things like that. So yeah, we're still obviously learning and trying to understand the industry all the time and learning from other providers who have been around for a lot longer than us. But yeah, probably only about 2 years now.
Okay, all right. So it's a newbie business. Okay, you're definitely older than 2 years. So I want to know a little bit about where Omar came from, who he is, what you want to be when you grew up, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, sure. So I actually was born in Sydney, moved to Canberra when I was quite young. I don't actually remember Sydney back then. So I grew up in Canberra, really. Very, very different to Sydney, certainly not as exciting for a young person. But
it's safe.
Very safe and very easy to get around comparatively. But, from having parents that are, much of Sydney's like this, that are immigrants, we really had to follow the opportunities that were presented in front of us, and more so my father and my mother. So we moved to Canberra so that they could continue pursuing that, obviously to give me and my sister, I have an older sister, opportunities in life that they have been working towards and why they came here in the first place. So then we moved to Canberra, did all my schooling there, and the minute I turned 18 and finished school, I was out of there. Actually quite a last minute decision, to be honest. And then came straight over to Sydney to start my university studies. Finished that, started working, but then very quickly realized that, yeah, look, I'm not coming back to Canberra, which mum and dad weren't too happy about, but nonetheless. And then really, I think growing up, obviously, much like a lot of people in the kind of teenage years, it was about, I want to be a soccer player. I want to do this. I played a lot of sports growing up, and soccer was, yeah, my kind of passion and whatnot. So yeah, kind of your traditional soccer. Obviously, parents had their own ideas of what kind of career paths I should choose, try medicine, try this, try that, very atypical. And it really wasn't till I was 17, 18 that I didn't have something concrete in mind, but I knew I wanted it to be something quite analytical, based on kind of the things I enjoyed studying, and didn't have something concrete in mind, and then ended up choosing engineering, and hence went to UNSW to do my undergraduate course in that one. But I think the pivotal moment in where business comes into all of this was when I was about 19, went back to Canberra for summer, reached out to a family friend who was maybe 4 years older than myself, but he was one of those individuals who had started his own business quite young, and his family was quite involved with it. I said, hey, mate, I want to do a bit of work over summer. Obviously, I'm back home. Do you have any internship opportunities available in your organization? And being a family friend, he was quite nice about it and said, we'll find something for you. And being a 19-year-old, I didn't have a lot to offer at that point because I didn't really know how the world worked. But I spent that summer working a part-time job in retail, actually, and then the second part-time component to that was doing an internship in his organization. And he was also doing kind of like a startup type thing as well, completely different industry. But that's where I found my passion for business. He really gave me a lot of opportunities. He looked past my age, which to this day is a mantra I follow in my own organization now. Look past age and look at people's capacity. So he didn't give me too many bounds. He really just let me loose, and let me try a bit of everything and do a bit of everything, and got me really involved. And that's where I found this kind of real enjoyment of contributing towards something quite significant, but not having any boundaries in what you do. And I think that's the beauty of business. You kind of do a bit of everything, literally a bit of everything. So there's no such thing as silos or kind of separation. That you're a business owner, you wear all these different hats, and you have to. And that's where the passion came from. And after that summer, I pretty much decided, even though I was only in my second year of university, I'm going to operate my own business one day. And then really the rest is history. Finished university, very much then started thinking about, started working for a couple of years in more of the corporate world, but was always thinking in the back of my mind, what's the best business idea that I want to get into? What aligns with passions, strengths, both at a personal level, and probably we'll go into this later, but at a family level as well. And then, 2 years ago, Lions Care was born, and I guess the rest is history from there.
Okay. All right. So if you don't mind me asking, what was the history of your parents? Where did they come from? Because this is a big part of your journey.
Yeah, definitely. Mum and dad are both from India, specifically around Delhi. So that's the northern part of India. It was Mum who actually came to Australia first by herself. She was in a position where her father, or my granddad rather, had passed away at quite a young age. So she had a lot of responsibility put on her shoulders from quite a young age. So when she got a bit older, she was always that kind of fiercely independent woman who really just, did her own thing. And I think particularly for that generation, that was a little bit different. But my grandma was also the same, because the same reason her husband had passed away quite early in that journey. And she obviously had a lot of kids to take care of. And she came to Australia and, funnily enough, spent a couple of years here, and then got a phone call from my grandma saying, if you want to stay in Australia, you need to get married, which, of that generation of the 1950s, 1960s is very, very normal, particularly, from India. So very much went back to India, met my dad, and then basically presented him, well, I'm going back to Australia. This is a non-negotiable. Do you want to be part of it? Sure. And then dad came over, and look, they, not a unique story at all, but much like a lot of other, call it first generation Australians, decided to start a family here and take that kind of leap of faith and come to a country where they didn't know the culture. Obviously, English wasn't their first language. And tried to build something here, and I'm kind of proud to say that they've definitely given me and my sister every opportunity we ever could have asked for or needed, through a lot of self-sacrifice. And yeah, that's basically their story and how we are where we are today.
It's interesting. I had a a friend of mine visit last night, actually from Adelaide. He's classifies himself as an Anglo-Indian. Okay, and he had a very similar story. So he got married during COVID, and there's a bit of his. He's on the lottery flights and all this sort of stuff. And they made the decision quickly to get married within 2 days.
Yeah,
And then come back here. Yeah, so it's still happening today, not just the 1960s. They're happily married. There's no
fantastic.
just for context, just in case he listens to this, he knows I'm talking about him behind his back. Okay, all right, and I'm being nosy here, but that's my job. Okay, what did they do when they were here work-wise? Did they set up their own business? Did they?
Yep.
What was their route?
Yeah, Mum had done a double masters in, I think, literature, and I'm forgetting the second one. Dad had studied medicine, so his goal had always been to become a doctor, and he was a doctor in India, and he came over here. Obviously, there's some kind of transfer stuff that took a bit of time, but yeah, when he came to Australia, practiced as a doctor, predominantly in ICU kind of emergency type care. So that was really his specialization and the type of work he did. And then later on, Mum kind of progressed into other roles, but obviously when they had children, Dad very much took that kind of primary career type of role within the family. And Mum obviously was still working, but took a bit of a step back in terms of, doing the upbringing of my sister and I predominantly. Also didn't help with having a dad that's a doctor with all the shift work and all that type of stuff. Didn't see too much of Dad, if I'm being honest, growing up a lot. Particularly, I think looking back now, particularly at school, through those kind of later, call it year 8 to year 11, 12, it was often a case of, we're studying and, we're trying to do our exams and obviously get our grades so that we can do what we want to do, which meant, we'd get home late from school. By the time we get home and go to bed, he's getting back from work. And then when we're going, he's still asleep from night shift. So didn't see a lot of Dad, to be honest, growing up. But that changed a lot when we got to university, or rather when I got to university, because it was a lot more, kind of fluid and flexible. And I think Dad was a big part of that support network. He's never been the type of person to pressure me or my sister ever to take a certain career path. Obviously very much was an advocate for, work hard, study hard, for him, it was always that work ethic and the discipline aspect that was really important to him. That's really what he drove home for us, rather than choose this specific path or that specific. That never ever was perpetuated by him towards us. But rather, yeah. But as we got a bit older and I really took down that kind of businessy type mindset, he definitely was a massive supporter for that. And I think as a younger person in your early 20s, it's quite rare to have someone backing you to take that leap of faith, because there's no kind of sugarcoating it. Starting a business is very risky. It's just the reality of business. So Dad was a massive part of giving me the confidence and that support network to go, no, you again, going back to something we talked about at the start, age isn't a factor. It's about what you want to do and your capacity to do it, really.
Okay. All right. So let's fast forward a little bit. Okay. These days, companies have well advertised values. Okay. They're on the website, they're on their job applications, adverts, they're wherever, in the kitchen, in the breakout room. Okay. It's a thing now. Okay. I believe you have values for your business. What are they?
Great question. So the key values we have, which are also on our website, is I'd say some are very specific to our model of care, which is, I would say, quite unique in our industry. And some are, call it, more generalized, but our application of it, I think, is what makes it unique. So the first and foremost one is we're quality driven. And I think quality does mean something different to every person, but what does it mean to us and Alliance Care? It means being that person that gets or kind of advocates for being the devil is in the detail type mindset. So it doesn't matter if it's a big client, small client, low complex, high complex, it doesn't matter. We go through with the same fine tooth comb, regardless of the situation, regardless of there's one care plan or 10 care plans. So we dive really deep into everything, which is, we've seen works. It's appreciated by everyone, all the stakeholders involved in a participant's care, whether it's a support coordinator or whether it's allied health, it doesn't matter. It's definitely appreciated. So we know it works. But quality in every aspect. When we constructed our first property for respite care, we want to separate ourselves from the pack in terms of, what makes our respite cottage different from our competitors. Where can we really showcase the quality aspect? And that's where we took the words and actually put into action and put into something tangible and to actually go, well, when we bring people in to do home viewings, when we could do open homes, when we do morning teas for people to come in and have a look, we don't want to say anything. We want them to see it and say things. And that's exactly what happened. So we did go an extra mile when we did the construction of that first cottage. We put in technology that I would say a lot of other cottages don't have yet. And I'm saying yet because I would like to see that technology in more and more cottages down the line. Radar, fall detection systems, things that you would see in more commercialized facilities, but not so much in our industry of these kind of sill respite cottages. The level of kind of finishing that we went to in terms of the inside and the outside and all that type of stuff. And we did get a lot of feedback around, it looks really nice and this and that. So I guess putting your money where your mouth is, right? Like we can say it all we want, but unless we can actually showcase that we're doing that, how easy it to actually prove that? So I'd say that's definitely one kind of generalized value, but that's how we executed it.
Okay.
Second one, obviously, is medically specialized. So that's something that is why we say we're a little bit of a niche provider. We are highly specialized in very, very complex clients, particularly around the medical side. We've got this care model that's doctor-led. And that's very much where Dad then starts coming to the picture. We've worked with clients. I think, Tom, maybe we've talked about this in the past. We had a 5-year-old boy with an ultra-rare genetic disorder. He was one of 14 in the world. He was incredibly clinically complex. The support coordinator told us he's one of the most clinically complex clients on the NDIS scheme altogether. So that's really the type of thing that we excel at, is clients like that, because that's where our strengths around being clinically specialized and incorporating doctor-led care into our care model can really be put to its best utilization, because you do need such detail and such experience to go in and actually identify the real risks and how those risks can be amplified and compounded, and then how does the medication complicate this and this and that. So that's really where that one then comes in. And then there are a couple more, but I think the third one and probably the last one I'll talk about is people at the core. We would not be where we are today without our people. Absolutely. I could be here, Dr. Abbas could be here, and we could be doing what we're doing, but without our staff and our team, it doesn't really matter. They're the ones going out, delivering the care, showing that resilience, particularly with some of our palliative clients, executing the strategies, implementing the plans, sharing our mentality that really this is the industry where you don't have any margin for error, particularly in our realm of high complex. There are such few industries where you simply cannot make a mistake. And it really is the case with our clients that we work with. It's you can do things right 99% of the time, and you can be the best carer, the best nurse, the best support worker in the world. But if you just make that one error and enough things compound, it can go disastrous. And that is such a tough position to be in as the person implementing this stuff and caring for that person, where you just can't make a mistake. Or if you do, having the protocols to manage it. So acknowledging that people are very much the reason we are where we are, and putting them at the front and the core of the organization, prioritizing them and going, you're a human being, we're a human being. What does that mean? How can we enable you? How can we support you? Not just physically and this and that, but at a personal level, how are we considering your personal circumstances, and how do we roster you and interact, and et cetera, et cetera? How do we make sure your mental health is actually looked at and actually, addressed as part of our care programs? We've got EAPs, et cetera, in place. How do we actually make you feel valued in our organization? And, we don't want people to just come in and feel like, okay, their roster comes out and now we're just going to do a shift. We don't want that. We want a culture here of people who share that mantra, which I'm very lucky to say is the community we really have in the organization now. Everyone shares that sentiment. So yeah, I would say those are really the three primary values, and kind of really how we've interpreted them and implemented those in our organization.
Okay, thanks for sharing those. I do like the fact that when you fleshed out the values, there's some substance behind it, but there was some practical use, some pragmatism behind it, because that's the disconnect which I often see with companies myself. So you've reaffirmed what I already believe to be true. But I do have a question for you. Okay, another question. Why do you think I asked about your values?
I think personally, I think when I've asked that question to other people, I want to hear what comes first to their mind. I want to know what are the things that they wanted to put down, like you said, on their advertising and their marketing. And I found sometimes that's the first things that come to mind for people, or their priorities rather. That might be why, to see, well, what are the first X amount of things that come into my mind that we think are the values? Is that close? Really?
Incorrect on this occasion. I'll give you a good effort sticker. I was positive reinforcement. I've got loads of those at school. No. So the reason I asked is because I was having a guess that the influence of your parents' journey, so where they come from, what they did, the sacrifices they made, the what worked and what didn't work for them, and the principles and values they've installed in you, my assumption, and I was just testing this, is that that's transferred into the DNA of your business. Okay, it's been a legacy effect on from them. Okay, and quite literally, then it is your baby, because you've installed your family values by example. Maybe there's things that you didn't want to see, like you saw the shifts work and what have you. Well, I don't want that, so this has now inspired me to do this. But the values that they're handed down, they seem very much how you described your parents.
Yeah, I think you're right, Tom. I think that really makes sense when you say it out loud, because they are the type of people that always put those around them first. And we are putting our staff before anything else. And, even if it's my discomfort, if there's a positive outcome for the staff, then that for me is a win. I definitely do think you're right. And yeah, they've always been advocates for, if you're going to do it properly. Don't do it at all. I definitely think you're right, Tom. I think a lot of it is in our upbringing and what they valued. And obviously growing up, we saw the benefits of that and how it made other people feel. My mum in particular is a very social lady. So we saw how that impacted the people around her and us. And if we can emulate that in our organization and make people feel, good and part of something, and really valued. I do find in our industry sometimes we can take our workforce for granted, especially as you scale. That is something I've found, that when you really start scaling your business, you really start getting a quite sizable workforce, I think we can start to take our teams for granted. I think it's really important as a leader to constantly be checking yourself and not taking anyone for granted. Still, I like to always think of it as big business processes, but small business heart. And I think that second part is really the more of a key part, is maintaining that small business heart. Because when you're a small business, it's so much more emphasized, and you kind of, sometimes you see it a lot. Then bigger companies kind of lose it along the way. But having the mentality that you don't lose it at all, you maintain that. And if anything, you have more resources that you grow, so then you amplify it. That's really our goal, and something we talk to about our team whenever we see them, is we want to maintain that value at the core. And that's not easy. And it's not easy. I will admit it. It takes time, it takes resources. And those times and resources are only greater as a team grows. But reminding yourself over and over again that this is the reason you are where you are, and we need to keep that and maintain that. So yeah, I think the small business heart thing is really the more important aspect of that little saying.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more on that. Okay, well, we're wrapping this up now. We've come to the end of our time here on this particular conversation. Hopefully, whoever listens to this sometime in the future, your story will resonate with them, or components of it. It might be that what you do for business is of use to them or someone they know. On that basis, how would you recommend that they contact you?
Yeah, if anyone wants to get in touch to have a discussion about really anything business or not business related, they can jump in through my LinkedIn, which I'm sure there'll be potentially a link to, or my email address, or you can just contact the organization on our info email address as well, and that'll get passed on to me as well. And Tom, would it be okay if we just dropped a link in the description, just so I can provide some details for that, if that's all good?
Yeah, we'll do that. And obviously when we publish it, we can post everything we want to on there as well. So that's too easy.
Or send me a DM on LinkedIn. That also works.
Done. All right, well, listen, thank you very much for sharing your story. Thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to speaking with you again soon.
Thanks so much for the invitation onto the podcast, Tom. Great chatting.
Thank you for watching this episode. I hope that you did enjoy it, had lots of takeaways from it. As before, please subscribe below so you can keep on top of any new releases we have. And also, if you would like to have your story told, just reach out with me, and I'd love to give you that platform. My best email address is tom@purplepatchconsulting.com. Thank you.